my name is Nathan Mins, founder of Greenlight Improv. Greenlight Improv is a professional training company that uses improv comedy as a tool for creativity, resilience, and communication skills. So we're not teaching improv comedy, but we're using improv as a tool to increase those different skills. I think about improv every day, but I know that most of us don't. So can I get a raise of hands? Who has ever heard of improv comedy before today? Wow, sometimes no one raises their hand. Can I get a raise of hand if you've ever seen it in person? Great, and keep it up if you've ever done improv. Look at that! This is the best ratio I've ever had. This is incredible.
You tried, man.
This is it. For those of you who haven't done it or seen it, and more importantly, didn't get to raise your hand 3 times just for fun, improv comedy is typically when 5 to 6 actors get on stage, they ask for a single word, and then they use that word to inspire a variety of scenes for the next 10 to 60 minutes. These are scenes that have never been done before and will never be done again, but only exist in that moment for that one show. For many of us, that sounds terrifying. To be in front of hundreds of people having no idea what you're about to say next, that's literally our worst nightmare. And I understand that because that's where I was in 2016. In 2016, I saw my first improv show, and right then I knew that improv was something I wanted to do. So I went out and auditioned for these 2 groups, and I did so well, and I made everybody laugh, and it was an incredible time. And the only small hiccup that came up later was that it seemed that I was the only person in the room that thought I did well. So I didn't get it. I didn't get into the groups. So I took a step back. I auditioned. I started taking some more classes. I started putting in the work of improv comedy. And I went out and auditioned one more time. And this time went so much better. Like, mountains better than before. And this time, the exact same thing happened. So a lot of progress. So those classes really paid off. But in total, I auditioned 7 times before I got into an improv group. Those 7 auditions taught me a couple things. First, improv is a learnable skill. Improv did not come naturally to me, but it's something that you can learn and can be developed. The other thing that I've realized is that as I was improving on stage, I was improving off stage as well. As I was becoming a better improviser, I was becoming a better communicator, more resilient, more creative, even a better team member. And so Greenlight Improv really exists to cultivate those skills using improv as a tool. Now that I had this new information that something happened for me, I looked at my friends and found that my fellow improvisers were experiencing the exact same thing. And even further, I looked at a mountain of studies that said the exact same thing, that improv can have a real effect on different work and life skills. So now we still have a problem. And that problem is we now know that improv can have a real effect on our different work and life skills. But here's our problem. And I'll show you this with just a question. Now that we know that improv can help us communicate better, be a better team member, be more creative, come up with better ideas at work, can I get a show of hands? Who's ready to sign up for an improv class? All right, we got a couple, but like not most. Definitely not most people. So that's sort of where our problem lies, and the solution is what we do at Greenlight Improv. So Greenlight Improv, we assume that no one has any interest in doing improv comedy. We assume you'd never want to stand in front of a group not knowing what you're about to say next and do a show. We do assume, though, that these skills I mentioned, creativity, resilience, and communication skills, are somewhat interesting. They don't have to be the most interesting, but they're, on the list of something you want to work on. So that's our assumption, that you only want to improve those skills. Improv comedy happens to be an incredible method to develop those skills. And even further, as I mentioned before, the definition of improv, 5 to 6 actors get on stage and ask for a single word. That's not really the definition we use at Greenlight Improv. We use anytime you don't have a script, whether that's a first date, job interview, or in about 10 minutes when you're asking questions, or an hour when we're all talking. So the whole basis of Greenlight Improv is to bring these benefits of improv to people that have no interest in this and bring it to these different groups and teams. I started Greenlight Improv when I was in college. It was in 2019 I started Greenlight Improv. It was part-time for a long time, and I quit my corporate innovation job in July of last year. The first couple months, I think, as most people that quit their job, was like not the best. But it has gone incredibly well in the last couple months. So I'm excited to hear more answer any more questions about how we grew, how we're at the point we're at now, and even to get feedback and even pushback on anything I've said and all of these ideas. So I'm very happy to be here, and that's Greenlight Improv!
Thank you.
Oh, let's just pass it out. Hey guys, my name is Cody Miller. I'm the founder of 1MillionCups. It's an SMS-based warm cookie delivery company here in Columbus, Ohio. Alicia is passing out some warm cookies, or hopefully they're warm. Back in the back, they are warm?
Warm and gooey. People are
Yeah, they're supposed to be warm and gooey. That's part of the part. Our goal is to build a small batch cookie and treats delivery business that connects directly to the customer via SMS communication. So a little bit of history first, or I guess a little bit of start on how we came up with the problem is I also run another business called Rhyme Time Pops. We're a popsicle company here in Columbus, Ohio, making fresh popsicles with local produce and specialty ingredients. We operate one of these popsicle trucks, or ice cream trucks, and a few popsicle carts around the city, delivering popsicles to different neighborhoods and things like that. And so kind of how we came up with the problem, or how we discovered the problem more or less, is even before when COVID took place, we were taking our carts and truck out to events and festivals and farm markets and things like that, but specifically we were doing a lot of neighborhood stops where we would take the truck out or a cart out to a local neighborhood. We would set up, we would show up from 4 to 6 p.m. or something like that, and very few customers would show up. We would have an organizer that would reach out to us, ask, hey, can you guys come back to Dublin and set up from 2 to 4 o'clock? And we would drive back out there and we would set up from 2 to 4 o'clock, and even the organizer wouldn't show up. And so we were kind of dealing with this problem that even after we would leave, we would get messages that was like, oh, if I would have known you guys were in Dublin, we would have came. Or the organizer would message us and say, oh, it was bad timing actually. I ended up having to take my kids to soccer practice. And so we had a lot of customer interest, but we weren't able to deliver our product properly to customers throughout the neighborhood stop. So we had a lot of interest, but not a lot of customers showing up. And so that landed us on our problem, which the problem being is that neighborhood word of mouth is only so reliable. Kind of what we discovered throughout this is that as we were going around, even though we'd have a host that would invite us out there and she would be telling her neighbors and the HOA, whatever that looked like, and while we were spreading the word, it only got so far to 10, 20 customers at max. The second problem is that, as I mentioned before, customers that were interested in our product didn't know that they could come to that neighborhood maybe, or they didn't know officially that we were there in the neighborhood. The second part is that ice cream trucks in their specific mode that they are now, ice cream trucks still exist in the neighborhoods, but most are outdated. We kind of like all have an impression of what the ice cream truck was and its nostalgic value, and how that kind of is like a really glamorous experience, and maybe thinking more about how the ice cream truck is in its current state, and maybe not as much like of a glamorous experience. We would have a lot of customers say like, we'll be the ice cream truck, and then they would follow it with like some crude statements about what the ice cream truck kind of represents now. And so that's kind of some of the other problem that we're dealing with. Last part is that social media was unreliable as a quick messaging to consumer platform. Meaning specifically is that we could post that we were coming to Dublin the day before. We could post that we were coming to Dublin the day of. We could make it on our story. And then we would still get people commenting the next day after the event took place saying, oh shoot, had I known you were in Dublin, I would have came by. And so it just wasn't the best way to communicate, specifically the best method, I guess, of communicating our schedule to customers, which is something that we were really dealing with. So what is Warmly? Warmly is our SMS-based cookie delivery business based on zip codes. We deliver text messages. We deliver text messages through automation based off of a customer's zip code, asking them specifically at the right time when they'd be interested in a cookie delivery for later that afternoon. Warmly reinvokes this lost emotion of the quick, convenient, fun, exciting, and delicious treats, hopefully similar to that of the ice cream truck. So how does this work for our customer now? So the customer can arrive on our website via a QR code, whether that be our Instagram, whether all of our social channels that we were currently and previously using with RhymeTime. A customer can land on our webpage where they need to scroll to the bottom, and we can have this probably a little bit better optimized in the future as well, but they can scroll to the bottom and all we need is their first name, their zip code, their phone number, and an acceptance whether they're interested in text messages or not. The second stage of this is once we're available and coming to their neighborhood, after we gather enough customers in their zip code and file it out through zip code, we'll send a text message to those customers and say, are you interested in a warm cookie delivery for later this afternoon? Signed off, Warmly. It's kind of hard to read, but basically it says, hey Cody, we're coming to your neighborhood tonight. Are you interested in a warm cookie delivery? Reply yes for the secret link, Warmly, comma. If you're interested, we'll respond yes. If you're not interested, we'll track no responses and no responses back, and people that respond no, we'll be able to track all that information as well. But if you're interested in yes, we'll send you over another link that says the delivery window is open until 2, or the ordering window is open until 2. Here's the secret link to get in for delivery. Once we send over the link, you take your processing order. We'll have cookies delivered to your doorstep later that afternoon. So, how does this work behind the scenes or on our end of the business? Well, throughout our testing of products throughout RhymeTime and kind of some of the treats and novelties that we were developing, we've kind of landed on, and it's hopefully pretty obvious to a lot of people, that chocolate chip cookies, specifically warm chocolate chip cookies with a little bit of sea salt on them, is one of the best desserts in America. It's pretty often chose as a pretty easy dessert for most everybody. I think everybody can kind of get behind it. So that was the obvious reason of why we chose that product. Second, we offer a limited batch of cookies baked per day. So when the link goes out, currently I have the number set in my mind that we bake 40 batches of cookies, essentially, or 40 orders worth of cookies. And once that link goes out at 11 a.m., we have 40 batches of cookies available to be purchased up until about the 2 to 3 p.m. cutoff time, in which we take that, bake those cookies, pack them up, and ship them out for delivery later that afternoon. The second part of this is we use data-driven insights to direct marketing and improve customer acquisition. So some of the information that I used before is like if a customer says no, we can kind of track what messages we send out, how they're worded, whether we use pictures in our messages, whether we use a lot of videos in our messages, whether we use QR codes or really unique marketing methods. We're going to be able to track all this information to figure out what's the best time to be messaging these people, what's the best time to close delivery, how many orders, does FOMO kind of work, things like that. So we're going to be able to use all this software to be able to strategize how we reach our customer best. And last is for the goal is to have a seamless communication between a brand and a customer to cause a lifelike feel. The name Warmly is meant to represent not only the cookies being warm, but kind of the Warmly comma as a sign off to a typical letter. So any letter that receives a Warmly comma sign off kind of invokes this like thoughtful message, I think. And we kind of want to be able to inspire some of that similar messaging throughout just a way of box of cookies. And so we want to make sure that as we're going about communicating with the customer directly through SMS and maybe less of a face-to-face communication, that we're kind of invoking some of that Warmly style messaging and feel. So my asks are kind of where we're at. This is, as was mentioned by Steve, this is kind of a car-baked idea at the moment. We're in the startup phase. We're kind of getting a lot of the MVP stuff ready to go to launch. We have a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff done via my experience in the food industry and CPG products and product development. We have kind of all of how it's going to work behind the scenes beyond some of these things. So my ask is, while we have had experience in logistics through Rhyme Time, we don't have a lot of experience in delivery specific logistics. And so if anybody has any advice, help, suggestions, contacts. Second is probably experience in no-code software. That's just kind of how we got inspired to start something like this, was utilizing no-code software for Rhyme Time. It kind of opened up a whole door and a whole pantheon of things that we could be solved through no-code software. No-code software via Airtable, Zapier, Twilio. Those are probably the programs that we're going to start using. So if you have any experience on that in the back end, I have like a very little experience, and I've tried to learn, but a lot. Second is, there's probably the third ask, is when you kind of present an idea to friends and family, it's really easy to be like, this is a cool idea, right? And shake your head and get everybody to agree that it's a really cool idea and you should go do this. And I think my ask, or my intention of bringing this here, is to get people to like tell me why maybe we shouldn't do this, or bring up some things that we haven't thought of before. So if you have anything that's like pretty glaring throughout this, I'm really interested, because I don't want to make a bad business. And last is just your thoughts and ideas about the cookies. If you have any feedback, we've kind of gone through a lot of trial and testing of the cookies, but obviously we want it to be a majority-like. The cookies are meant to be warm and dewy cookies. They're meant to be received in the afternoon. They're meant to have like a toffee fudge-like center and kind of a crisp outside with a sea salt top. So that's kind of the goal of those cookies. And last but not least, if you're interested in signing up for Warmly Cookies, we'll probably start making deliveries, hopefully I think in about 2 weeks. This is kind of the goal. But if you'd like to sign up, that's a QR code to our website. Scroll to the bottom and you just need to sign up there. We definitely thought about this, and specifically through like corporate ordering as well, for people that want to order maybe multiple big batches to take to the office the next day or something like that. We have like the messaging and the product to go when you order it, so that if it shows up at your house and you can't eat all 6 cookies or 4 cookies when we deliver them. Oh yeah, the cookies come in a batch of 4 or in a batch of 6. You don't just order 1 cookie. We kind of have it preset currently that you're either ordering just a batch of 4 cookies or a batch of 6 cookies. So that's a note to make, but we don't have it yet quite figured out on how we give them as a gift, because I think that is something that's really interesting, and really interesting for me is like how we develop a Warmly brand.
Like I'm more likely to purchase more often.
Yeah, if you're able to purchase it for somebody else because you happen to get on the list. Yeah, I think there'd be a way to, like a cool way to either share, so maybe we try to find a way to properly incentivize you to being able to tell your friend to get on the list, or maybe we give you you buy the box of cookies, or you spend $20 on the box of cookies, whatever that's like, but it credits your friend for whenever your friend gets to order, something like that. Like trying to find a creative way that you get to share the product while it doesn't ruin the like disruption of the chain of how we deliver. The goal of this is to optimize delivery for the most part. So if we were to deliver in a zip code, we can try to get out all 40 orders at once, as opposed to like going down to Clintonville, going up to Dublin, going over to Powell, and coming back down to New Albany. Really trying to focus on area specific, similar to the ice cream truck. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Good question.
Nathan, I got a question for you. Let me pull your slide up too, just in case people want to get your contact info.
Great slide.
Yeah.
Oh,
Great slide.
No, it's good. We'll leave them both up.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
So I'm
Not an
listening to the
artist.
presentation, and I'm thinking,
That's what's on.
I'm thinking Toastmasters, I'm thinking interview prep. Like,
Yeah.
what's a workshop look like? How do you get somebody that's like totally not interested in this to the other side?
Yeah, typically they are existing groups that we go into. So it's like teams in the corporate world, a lot of student work too. But yeah, so really, like, here's an example of someone that like very much was not interested. I was doing a group of about 40 people, and this woman, well, first I went in, and I was like, "You guys ready to do some improv?" And she was like, "What are you talking about? I'm not doing improv." And I was like, "Well, I mean, company paid for it, so I think you'll probably do it." And I found out that they didn't tell anyone that they were gonna do improv because they thought they would be anxious. And I was like, that was a terrible idea. Like, imagine how anxious they are now. So at the beginning of every workshop, I have about 10 minutes where I sort of lay out what we're gonna do. We're gonna be in pairs for about half the time. The other half, we're gonna be in about groups of 4 to 6. And about like 5 minutes into this opening spiel, she was like someone would raise her hand, and I was like, okay, didn't ask a question yet, but sure, I guess I'll take a question. Yeah, what's up? And she's like, I just want to let you know that we're all introverts and we're gonna hate this. And I was like, I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate that. And I was like, you know, I understand where that's coming from. Give me like 15 minutes. Like, give me 15 minutes to prove to you that this will be worth your time. I won't ask for any more. And like an hour in, she was volunteering to the whole group. So it's really getting over like that initial hump. But we're generally brought in from one person in an organization brings us in for the whole group. Yeah.
Worst are
That's cool, yeah.
What?
Before are
Yeah, so the model is everyone that doesn't want to has to.
Does it translate to virtual well, or?
I've done a couple virtual ones. Yeah, I think it's more impactful, like in person.
Yeah.
But I still had good reviews virtually.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like breakout rooms with facilitators that jump in and out. But yeah, we've done virtual too.
Yeah. And Cody, I was thinking of Thunder Kiss here. Can you talk about the
Yeah.
do you know them?
Yeah, I know Thunder Kiss. Big fan.
Yeah, we talk off the top right away.
Oh, really?
They do it, but
Thunder Kiss is a coffee company here in town.
but I think during COVID, were they always like that, or what?
I don't know.
During COVID, I would like DM them on Instagram.
Yeah, I know. And they'd be like, an hour later.
Yeah.
Somebody'd be like walking out with coffee like an hour later.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm just thinking like locally that they could be helpful and like how do
Yeah, check out how they do that.
Do you take DMs?
Yep.
Cody, when you look at like, you say like zip codes and stuff, have you looked at like hyper-local?
Yeah, so the goal to start is focusing hyper-locally, such as downtown apartment complexes and kind of like our Rhyme Time's production facilities down just south of German Village, and so obviously it's maybe staying a little bit more centrally to German Village, but really like congested. So going up to Dublin and really trying to target a neighborhood specifically and finding ways to kind of. We have like some pretty cool marketing ideas that are ways to really figure out who we can target, and then using the statistics online of like what's the average medium income, family size, X, Y, and Z. If we start to really extrapolate some of that stuff and figure out, well, families of 6 with this income and this type of community is how we can market, or this is the best way to market to this. This is how we grow the business and scale it to going to Indianapolis or Austin, Texas, or San Diego, something like that. So the goal is to test and see the product and how it works here and what messaging works and what the client looks like first. And so it could be younger, affluent people that are living in apartment complexes downtown and just focusing just on bombing that apartment. Not bombing, that's a bad word, sorry, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like flooding that apartment with messaging and marketing. Wrong concept, yeah.
Our concept
But like
is-
really, really like flood the apartment complex with marketing appropriately. So really focusing hyper locally to start, and then as it grows out, to obviously accepting everybody in the zip code, whatever that looks like.
I have a question. Do you, and this would change a lot of the business model, I guess, but is there a way that you can deliver other people's cookies as well?
So we probably wouldn't do that specifically.
Well, I just mean like if you became like a delivery service too.
Yeah, the concept revolves around eventually becoming an ice cream truck, and so we've developed a ton of different products. I've had a bunch of different ideas from another business called 99 Pies. I have this other business that sells some things for Valentine's Day, other ice cream cakes that we've made with Rhyme Time, and other ice cream novelties that we'd like to get out, but kind of our distribution methods with Rhyme Time doesn't seem the most efficient way to dilute our popsicle product with other ice cream products at the same time. So this concept is to introduce cookies because cookies are the most popular product, we believe, that people were most easily to say yes to eventually branching out to becoming more like an ice cream truck. And maybe we make all those products, maybe we don't, but maybe in the future of what this product looked like after the MVP phases, we text you with a whole entire ordering list of really cool ice cream treats that can be delivered to you that we make in-house based off of kind of our standards of what we've learned through Rhyme Time, kind of updating some of the treats and novelties of the ice cream truck based off of some of Rhyme Time standards for making treats. So that's kind of like where it goes eventually. And they might be our product, they might not be our product, I don't fully know, but right now it's going to be our product, yeah. Just good control. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like fully integrated. And
Yeah.
that's sort of like the whole model.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Cody, as we were talking about different products, that you're at the point of chocolate chip cookies with salt on top, totally the perfect cookie. Stick with that by all means. Your website, if you could include ingredients,
Yeah.
that would help people so much. I am in the wonderful position of I would order for myself. I have kids with food allergies, so it's never
Same.
happening.
Yeah.
And in this case, I'm going to assume these have egg in them. I can't
Yeah.
order them for my kid, but some other person who says, I don't know, does he put soy in his cookies? You probably don't. But they're going to, that mom is going to go to the website and say, okay, can I order these for my kids? No, I can't. And
Yeah.
this is probably like a traditional chocolate chip cookie. If that's on the website, you'll get all those people who come, look, and say, I'm not sure, so not spending money.
Totally.
That's quick fit.
No, that's what I was kind of saying on like the Rhyme Time dietary standards is I feel like we've really won customers with Rhyme Time because we have a really easy list of ingredients for the most part. It's like a fresh fruit, sugar, water, lemon juice, and maybe like a citric acid or some type of other some minor solution to help with the ice quality of the popsicles. And we've been pretty transparent with our ingredients, which is really one for a lot of parents that have dietary restrictions, and we provide popsicles to all the dietary restriction camps in Columbus, outside of Columbus. And so doing something like that would be pretty similar, but what I have found with Rhyme Time is it's kind of restricted us with our creativity as well.
Yeah.
Is so we can't use chocolate chips because they have soy lecithin in a lot of them, and so even if we buy organic, which some people want, then they have soy. So trying to navigate what ingredients we can include and not include is definitely difficult in trying to not make sure it limits our creativity. But I'm very much interested in adding more pages to the website eventually of like a better breakdown of how this all works. What are the ingredients of just the cookie, and especially as we add more cookies in, make it a little bit more transparent for dietary reasons. Yeah.
As a parent, and just imagining this kind of delivery, and I've been thinking that how do I order in the morning or early, late morning, right, and the delivery in the afternoon, and I'm like, yeah, but do I wait at home? So it was thinking for that part, that thinking that it's it could be very hard for me to like. I would stay at home for the delivery of the cookies, right? But I would want them to be warm, so all that kind of. But then I thought, well, if it's in the morning when I'm sure for sure at home, that would be nice. But then I thought, if I were in the office working, then that would be perfect. I would know for sure I'm in the office. There are lots of people who like cookies, and I thought that was like would be great.
Yeah. That's a great question, honestly, because we've thought about how to like, what's the best method of delivery and what's the best way to get this and make sure our customer receives it when we show up in their neighborhood. I think is like the most important part that I'm trying to get at. And so by utilizing the information, so if you send us a text message, I guess what this really looks like on the back end, if it's okay, is if you send us a text message, ordering closes at 2 o'clock, we take and we file all the people that said yes. We scrape the information of their address now. We scrape all that information, put it into a Google file or a Google delivery optimizer, and we optimize the delivery based off of it saying if we leave at 6 o'clock, what time will we arrive at all these addresses? We take all that information back, scrape that information back, and send you a text message after you order. After the window closes, we send you a text message that says, thanks for your order, expect cookies at 6:26 p.m. Or around 6:26 p.m. with the goal of like really making sure you know when we're showing up to your neighborhood so that you can expect the warm cookies on your doorstep. That's kind of the whole entire point, is that by texting in the morning to try to make sure that we're really notifying you when we're going to actually show up with the product.
But I then say, oh, that won't work, and then you don't, and then you can give the order to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is hopefully to no face-to-face interaction, just so it doesn't slow up delivery time. The idea is that we leave warm cookies on your doorstep or wherever you suggest us to leave them. And with the warm cookies, if you don't happen to get to them or it's negative degrees outside, we still leave a list on how to warm up cookies again, if that's the case. So there's still a list of like, if you don't eat all these cookies, there's 4 different ways of how to rewarm them or kind of save them. So you can eat 2 of them tonight, and here's the way to save the other 2, and here's the way to rewarm them up. And we're going to make sure that we include all that stuff so the customer experience kind of stays the same, and once again revolving around the thoughtfulness of the brand and the thoughtfulness of the product, that we really have like taken the steps to think of this for you. So hopefully it's a pleasurable experience.
Yeah, that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
I have another question on timing. I know you said you'll text people in the morning and then order window closes at 2. If you text me in the morning, I'm going to be like, I'm going to be good today. I'm going to have the best of the day.
Yeah.
And if you can, all the resolve is gone, right? I need coffee. I'm going to want a cup of coffee and hot cookie. Oh my gosh. So it would be interesting to play with like text in the morning and text at 1:30 that like after lunch.
We're trying to hit hunger pangs is the idea, and so that's written on like some of the business plan of this is like hunger pangs take place right before lunch and right after lunch, so we can strategize it. And my girlfriend thought about sending it at 11:11, which I thought was a cool idea, and that takes place right before breakfast and so right before lunch. And so if we can kind of like stay specific on what time we send it out and kind of like the wishfulness behind it, sort of, that'd be really cool. But through data analytics, we might find out that 1 o'clock is the best time to send this message, and maybe we need to really strategize how we deliver cookies. So maybe we don't have enough bake time between 3 and 5 p.m. to be baking cookies or something like that. So that's all kind of like data analytics part that comes into this, that we're just going to figure out what works best. But in my mind right now, that's just what we came up with.
From an operations standpoint, how much in advance are you actually planning the zip codes?
Say that how far in advance are we planning the zip code?
You can actually be planning the zip codes. I'm just trying to sign up a planner. Like I'm the opposite. I'm going to plan my meals, but on Thursday, I'm going to give myself a treat.
Yeah, that's another part of the data analytics of like figuring out is Mondays and Tuesdays really big treat buying days. Probably not based off of what we've seen with Rhyme Time, but like should we focus on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or should we focus on adding Sunday into the list? But planning the zip codes is pretty tough right now when we only have like less than 100 people signed up for the whole entire thing.
But essentially, could you tell me on Monday that you're going to be in my neighborhood on Thursday?
Yeah, I think like a countdown, or at least utilizing, basically saying like if you follow our social channels, and we kind of release that's like Grandview, we're coming to you on Thursday, kind of to build some of the excitement and to get people to make sure that they start signing up, because the only way you can receive the text link is if you receive a text message. So I think that would probably be the best way that we'd go about it, and that's kind of how we thought about it so far. Is like throughout the week we'll say Friday, Powell, we're coming to you, and so hopefully people will start sharing that information. It says, look, my neighbor in Powell, get on the list if you want cookies to sign. I think that's kind of how we're going about it.
I have one last thought, but then I have something for you. Yeah, I think like if first we were talking about like the day text up to like get that like, oh, I better get it. But if you're only doing 40 batches, and even if you're planning ahead, I think people will still be like, okay, there's only 40 spots. So like if I gotta plan ahead if I want this on Thursday. I like that. Okay, where are you trying to go with things? What do you need? Where are you trying to go? We heard a little bit from you about what you need.
Yeah, the biggest thing is breaking into universities or corporations. Like getting the first workshop in a group, because once like I'm in like a group, everyone talks about the day and talks about what they did, and it sort of spreads naturally through that. But the hardest part is like Ohio State, for example. That's all. The left pictures is a entrepreneurship club at Ohio Scholars, and I've done like a ton of workshops with the university, but breaking into other universities, the method at the moment is wait until people leave their job and go to another school, and then they're like, I remember Nathan, let's bring him back.
Yeah.
So getting that first workshop is like the biggest struggle. So any advice on that, or at your company? Yeah.
How do you think about creating awareness for, when trying to talk about, people may know what improv is or they may not, but if they do know what it is, green light improv, I think
Yeah.
you're doing like training or training. How do you think about creating that brand outside of the word of mouth?
Yeah. So a lot of it is going to events. Events are like by far the most effective way. Mostly events where I'm doing a workshop. And ideally that's a group where there's a lot of different groups there. So like a startup weekend, like I'm sponsoring Startup Weekend. I sponsored Give Back Hack. And so like going to those, but I've tried like email campaigns, like doesn't seem to work very well. Yeah, so I think I'm still figuring out the more scalable approaches. But at the moment, events are working very well, but I recognize they're not scalable. Yeah.
Definitely seems like the type of thing where you need to have that in-person engagement. So we have a last question that we ask, and for everyone, feel free to hang around. You know, we're up against some construction, it seems, but feel free to hang around and engage with these entrepreneurs. But the last question, which kind of answer, give us, biggest thing on your list. What can we as a community do to help you guys?
So if you have a team, it'd be great to talk more about a workshop, or if you know anyone specifically in higher ed too, that'd be great to talk to them and just talk after this.
Beyond my asks that are up on the screen, I think probably the biggest thing we're sort of looking for is if anybody knows no-code software to some extent. That's probably the biggest ask. I think there's a lot of data analytics that come with this that we're trying to figure out how we go about it. I think we have some of the marketing structures and the direct operations behind it in motion that works really well. It's really just the technology side of this that's probably the most difficult. So, yeah.
And what's the website called?
The website is warmlycookies.com.
Thank you very